You know, there's something rather peculiar that happens when you begin to wake up. And I don't mean waking up in the ordinary sense of opening your eyes after a good night's sleep. I'm talking about that other kind of awakening, the kind where you suddenly see through the elaborate game that everyone is playing, where the veil drops, and you realize that what you took to be solid reality is actually a magnificent dance of consciousness playing hide and seek with itself. And here's the thing that nobody tells you about this awakening. There's a truth that emerges, a truth so fundamental, so completely obvious once you see it, that you'd think everyone would want to know about it. But the great irony is that this truth must be kept hidden, not because it's dangerous in the conventional sense, but because the very act of revealing it too directly prevents others from discovering it themselves. You see, the truth is this: there is nothing you need to do to be what you already are. You are already it. The seeker is the sought. The observer is the observed. The wave is the ocean pretending for a moment to be separate so it can experience the thrill of returning home. Now, you might say, well, that's simple enough. Why not just tell everyone? And here we come to the great paradox. Because if I simply tell you that you're already enlightened, that there's nowhere to go and nothing to achieve, one of two things will happen. Either you'll reject it outright because it contradicts everything you've been taught about self-improvement and spiritual progress, or you'll accept it intellectually and turn it into just another concept to collect in your mental trophy case. The moment you make enlightenment into a destination, you've missed it entirely. It's like trying to catch your own shadow. The harder you chase it, the faster it runs away. But stop running, and there it is, always was, right beneath your feet. This is why the great teachers throughout history have been so maddeningly paradoxical in their teachings. They point at the moon, but insist you don't mistake the finger for the moon itself. They set up elaborate systems of practice, knowing full well that the practice itself will eventually have to be abandoned. They build you a boat to cross the river, but remind you not to carry the boat on your head once you've reached the other shore. The Buddha taught for 40 years, but at the end, he said he hadn't taught a single thing. Lao Tzu wrote that the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. Jesus spoke in parables, because direct explanation would have missed the point entirely. These weren't being deliberately obscure for the fun of it. They understood something crucial. The truth cannot be given. It can only be discovered, and what makes this even more delicious is that you can't discover it by trying to discover it, because who is trying? The ego. And the ego is precisely the illusion that must be seen through. The ego is like a character in a dream trying to wake up the dreamer. It's a magnificent impossibility. So what happens when you truly wake up? You realize that you've been playing a cosmic game of hide and seek. God, the universe, consciousness, whatever word you prefer for that which is ultimately unnameable, has pretended to be you, to be separate, to be limited, to be mortal, and has done so with such conviction that it actually believes its own story. The character thinks it's real. The wave thinks it's separate from the ocean. And the awakening is simply the moment when God says, "Aha, found myself." The great search ends not because you found something new, but because you realized you were what you were looking for all along. The treasure is not at the end of the journey. You were sitting on it the entire time. Now, here's where we must be very careful indeed. Because when you see this, when you really see it, there's a tremendous temptation to go out and tell everyone, to grab people by the shoulders and shake them and say, "Don't you see? You're already it. Stop searching, stop trying, just be what you already are." But this almost never works. In fact, it usually has the opposite effect. People think you've gone mad, or worse, they turn your insight into a new belief system, a new religion, a new set of rules to follow. They take your spontaneous exclamation of recognition and turn it into dogma. They take your pointing finger and build a shrine around it, completely forgetting to look at what you were pointing at. This is what's happened throughout history. Jesus didn't come to start a religion. Buddha didn't intend to create Buddhism. They were simply expressing their own realization, pointing at what they saw. But the followers, not having the same realization, turned the pointing into an institution. They preserved the words but missed the music behind them. And so, those who truly awaken learn to keep quiet in a peculiar way. They don't necessarily become silent monks sitting in caves, though some do. Rather, they learn to speak in such a way that their words act as mirrors rather than maps. They create situations where others can discover the truth for themselves rather than trying to hand it to them directly. It's like teaching someone to ride a bicycle. You can explain the physics of balance and forward momentum all day long, but until they actually get on the bike and experience it themselves, they won't know how to ride. And interestingly, once they do know how to ride, they can't explain exactly how they do it. The knowledge is in their bones, not in their concepts. The awakened person learns to work with others where they are. If someone is deeply identified with their spiritual seeking, you don't tell them to stop seeking. Instead, you might encourage them to seek so thoroughly, so completely, that they eventually exhaust themselves and collapse into the realization that there was never anywhere to go. If someone is caught in the grip of trying to become a better person, you don't tell them self-improvement is a trap. You let them improve until they realize that the one trying to improve is the same one who thinks something is wrong in the first place. This is the art of skillful means, as the Buddhists call it. It's the ability to meet people where they are and give them exactly what they need to take the next step on their journey, knowing full well that all steps are ultimately steps in place, that the journey is really a staying put, that there is nowhere to go because there is nowhere that isn't here. And here's another layer to why this truth must be kept hidden, because the truth is alive, not static. It's not a formula or a fact that can be transmitted like a recipe for bread. Every person must discover it fresh in their own experience. It must be new each time, or it's not the real thing. It's like falling in love. Someone can tell you about love, can describe the feelings and the symptoms, but until you fall in love yourself, you don't really know what they're talking about. And when you do fall in love, your experience of it will be uniquely yours, even though love itself is universal. The truth we're talking about is like that. It's universal, yes. Everyone who awakens sees the same fundamental thing. But the way they see it, the context in which it arises, the particular flavor of their realization, all of this is unique to them. And this uniqueness cannot be captured in words or teachings. It must be lived. There's also a very practical reason why this truth must be kept hidden, and it has to do with the nature of society itself. Society, you see, is based on a collective agreement to take the game seriously. We agree to treat money as if it's real value. We agree to treat our roles and positions as if they define who we are. We agree to treat time as if it's passing and death as if it's an ending. Now, these agreements aren't necessarily bad. They're necessary for the game to function. You can't play chess if you refuse to follow the rules. You can't participate in the economy if you don't agree that money has value. The problem isn't the game itself. The problem is forgetting that it's a game. When you wake up, you see that it's a game. But you also realize that you're still playing it. You still need to eat. You still need shelter. You still interact with